Welcome to the Doctor's Call that we do every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time to bring you some cutting-edge health information from our host, Dr. Kurt Fisnick, who often has guest speakers on his call with him. We have a whole team of doctors that Dr. Kurt is working with to bring us their knowledge, their blended knowledge for us to have a really good handle on our health. We often mention products during the call because the doctors are working with a company called Sisel International. It is a huge facility in Utah that creates many formulations for many different companies, but we in particularly work with the social arm of their company called Sisel, and we have highly effective products that are produced, all of them non-toxic. So I'd just like to welcome Dr. Kurt Fisnick, who is an award-winning chiropractor and someone who is passionate about health and has been bringing information and health benefits and education to people for several years now. Dr. Kurt, welcome to the call.
You bet. Well, Andrea, thanks for the great introduction. It's actually been 31 years that I've been a doctor now. Isn't that crazy?
Great.
Yeah, I look back at it and I just, I remember when I was going to college for engineering and back in the 70s, if you remember, cars didn't really, well, you grew up in Michigan, so you know about cars. But cars, they just didn't last very long. I mean, if you had a car that went 100,000 miles, you had a nice car. Now we see cars going 300,000-400,000 miles. But back then, I was going to school for mechanical engineering up here at North Dakota State. And my advisor, Dr. Gettler, I was talking to him one day, and he was basically, asking me about my senior design project. What was I going to kind of look at? And I told him, I said, I really want to work on the automobile industry. I want to design a car that doesn't break down and gets great. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about gas mileage. I was thinking there's got to be a way of splitting hydrogen from water and fueling a car with that, and like a fuel cell. And he looked at me and he said, "Man," he said, "great ideas, but you'll never get a job because the automobile manufacturers, they don't want that. The gas companies." Oil companies around the world, they don't want that either. So you're better think of something else. And that's when I decided to go into chiropractic and health, because I thought that here's something that I can do. I can help people. I can actually try and fix them and not lose my job because of it. And I quickly realized after I got out of school that that's not really what society, well, I think people want it. People want it. They want to get fixed. But, traditional medicine really it's still not about fixing people. And so that's what brings me here, Andrea. That's what got me into Sisel. And that's what got me doing these calls, is because when I was asked to do them, I was like, yeah, I love teaching people how to stay healthy. Here I am.
And we appreciate it very much. I think many of us are passionate about helping people, so that's why we're drawn to a company like Sisel with awesome products. So what do you have to share with us today, Doc?
Well, I was just thinking about this morning, what kind of a topic, what should we cover, and because every week it's like there's so many things. Which one do you pick from? And sometimes it feels like I hit one subject way too much, but there's just so much information on it, and then there's other subjects that maybe I don't hit enough, and so I was thinking, what's going to be the best one? So this morning I decided, heart disease. It's been the #1 killer of Americans, basically for the last 100 years or so. Before that, it really wasn't, because people didn't live long enough to have heart disease, and not as much as they do now. And so, I mean, because you look back in the 40s, if you lived to be 60, you were considered to be old, you know, so people just didn't live as long. But, I mean, let's go back and just really look at some of the history. Heart disease, it's taken out, you know, most of the presidents that have been president of the United States in the last, you know, century. Heart disease took the life of Theodore Roosevelt, William Taft, Woodrow Wilson, Lyndon Johnson, Calvin Coolidge, Franklin Roosevelt, and Richard Nixon. Plus, you know, Bill Clinton had a number of different heart procedures done. George W. had some procedures done, and then even you take a look at Vice President Cheney. I mean, he had a coronary bypass when he was 47. He had a stent put in when he was 59. He had some ventricular work done when he was 69, and he had a whole total heart transplant at age 71. So heart disease is still, you know, either the number one or number two killer. Was actually bypassed by cancer for the first time in history last year, when cancer became the number one killer. But we look back, I mean, like Dwight Eisenhower, he smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day until he quit in 1949. He had a diet. I mean, the day that he had his heart attack, he had sausage, bacon, and pancakes for breakfast. He had a hamburger for lunch and roast lamb for dinner. And people just, you know, the medical profession, traditional medicine and science really kind of ignored and kind of ridiculed people that, you know, that proposed that diet and that had some effect on heart disease, and it was actually the major cause of heart disease, and so now you move full circle and you take a look at what we know today, and there's just, I mean, we've seen that you know, that there's been a 50% decline in cardiovascular mortality with the things that we've added. Isn't that just great?
It is. And they have new discoveries out all the time.
Yeah. I mean, you take a look back in the 50s when Pritikin was working on his diet. The Pritikin diet, I'm sure you've heard of that. But it took him 9 years, just trial and error. He wasn't a doctor. He was an engineer, and worked in aerospace and an inventor. And he was diagnosed with some heart disease and coronary artery disease, and at that time, you know, it pretty much meant death. And he worked on coming up with this diet that would lower your risk of dying from heart disease, and they ridiculed him. They actually accused him of being a charlatan. And he battled the United States government. He battled the health agencies, the private health agencies. He battled the American Medical Association. And it wasn't until 1987 that the American Medical Association showed that, following his recommendations, the Pritikin protocol, that you could actually reduce your risk of heart disease. Isn't that something?
It sure is.
You know, and you'd think that you know, they take a look at some of these things that we're doing in natural medicine and apply it, you know, but sometimes I believe that they do. They actually do look at it. I should say that in a different way. They actually do look at it, but then they try and come up with drugs that will mimic the natural. Last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, up in Michigan, where you live there, University of Michigan had a great study. They said that, and I know this gets off the course of heart disease, but they said that if you're taking probiotics and you have a healthy microbiome, which is the environment inside of your digestive system, in the mucous membranes in your digestive system. They said that you could reduce the death rate of people who died from chemo by somewhere near 50%, and I don't know if the numbers are exact. I'm just but this is what I remember, and it was near 50%. And then I was reading this year that 50% of deaths from cancer aren't really from the cancer, but they're actually from the treatment of the cancer. And so that means that overall, if you take 50% of the 50%, that's 25%. And so that means you could reduce the deaths from cancer overall by 25% if you help keep the gut healthy. Isn't that something, Andrea, when you start reading that?
Yeah, we're learning that gut health is important in practically every aspect of our systems.
It really is, yeah. And wouldn't you think that if you were a doctor and you read that study by the University of Michigan, wouldn't you just tell people, hey, let's do a few things, take some probiotics, and reduce the number of antibiotics that you take, and try and get meat that's not tainted with antibiotics, and drink some Bragg's apple cider vinegar, and drink some kombucha, and load yourself up with fermented foods that have been cultured, like kefirs and things like that. I mean, wouldn't you just think that that's what they would do if they read that study?
Well, you would think so.
Yeah, that's what you'd think. How inexpensive is that? But no, that's not what's going to happen. The drug companies are trying to develop a drug that works like a probiotic. What do you think of that?
That's what they always do. Let's change a few molecules and put something unnatural in your body.
Yeah, and so that's what they're working on. And I don't think they're even actually working on a drug version of a probiotic. They're working on a drug that will trick your brain into thinking that you have a healthy gut.
Well, I think the really good thing is that many people, and like the people on this call, or maybe the people who will hear this call, are starting to wake up to all of this and discovering that the healthy course is to avoid toxins and to use natural substances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just reading this morning. As I like to do my research before I do this call, that if you have a stent put in, right, and it's a common procedure, what happens is the arteries start to get plugged up, no matter where they are plugged up, and they go in and they basically put this mesh in there to open the artery up and to kind of squish the plaquing out of the way so that the blood will flow through that blocked off area easier. But I was reading on that, and they said that it's not that many years after they put in a stent that you actually start to have heart disease again, and this time it in a lot of cases it's more fatal than it was the first time.
Yeah, it could be, based on the research I saw, that it's not really that little narrow passage that's causing it in the first place. It must be something else.
Must be something else, yeah. I mean, seriously, folks, I mean, when you're thinking about it, how can it be that the artery is only going to be plugged in that one spot? How can there only be plaquing in that one spot? I mean, if there's plaque in here, there's some over there, and if there's some over there, there's some over here, and so how can you put stents in every possible area? And that's where some of the problem starts to come in, and then all of a sudden the body starts to build plaque around the plaque and plaque around the stent itself, and so I mean That's, I mean, even though it's a way of saving your life. I mean, the drastic measures do need to be taken, and I want to just say this: drastic measures do need to be taken when you're knocking at death's door like that. And you know, Andrea, what's the key to not having to worry about it?
Stay healthy in the beginning, I guess. Understand how the body works so that you can do that, which is what we're doing today.
Exactly. Prevention. That's the key to all of this, is that what can we do to prevent this types of things from happening? I mean, I think in the 50s and 60s, the big thing then is that they were doing some studies, and they said fat. That's the problem, fat. We find fat plugging the arteries. And so therefore, let's reduce the dietary intake of all fats. And they didn't take into account that, there's actually good fats and bad fats. And so you want to reduce the bad fats, but you want to elevate the good fats, like the omega-3s and the omega-7s, because they're gonna help get rid of inflammation, and they're gonna help get rid of plaquing, and they're gonna help keep the arterial walls clean. And one of the things, when I told you that I was looking at talking about cardiovascular disease today, didn't you say something about inflammation, Andrea?
I did, and to go back to the whole fat theory, when I was in college, I'd go to my nutrition class, and the instructor would say, oh, don't eat fat, it's bad for you, there's all these experiments, blah, blah, blah. Then I would go to my A&P class, and they would tell me things like, fat makes up the structure of all cellular membrane. And then I'd go, well, how can we have strong cells if we don't have fat to make that, So it was a kind of a oxymoron there. And today I was reading that they did an experiment on 20,000 women doing a low-fat diet. They had no decrease in cancer, no decrease in heart attack, no decrease in weight loss. But what they are finding is that sugar causing inflammation in the body, and of course we know other things that cause inflammation in the body, tends to be looking like one of the main culprits of heart disease now.
Mm-hmm. Heart disease. Isn't that something?
It is.
Yeah. Arterial and heart disease kills 35% of Americans and 30% of people worldwide. It's that bad. You look at the coronary arteries. You look at the arteries. The outer layer is mostly connective tissue, and it basically provides kind of a structure. The middle layer is made up of smooth muscle, and it contracts and dilates. It controls the blood flow and maintains blood pressure. And then the inner lining is a layer of endothelial cells, and it provides like a smooth flowing surface so that the red blood cells that it doesn't collect, it doesn't stick, and so it's inflammation that really triggers it to start to stick, that causes the fatty tissue to stick to it. And I think some people, you look at the science from back in the 50s and 60s, and they told us that the fat from our diet was what plugged it. But really, Andrea, and for those of you listening, the fat that sticks to your arteries, it's made by the liver. And so your body's making it, and it sticks to the inside, and we have to ask ourselves, well, what makes it stick in the first place? Why do you have this happening? Why do you have the atherosclerosis like you do? And it comes right down to it that the main culprit is. Do you know what the main culprit is, Andrea?
Tell us.
Sugar.
That's what I thought.
Sugar? Yeah, because sugar, when you take a look at it, and you've heard me say this before, it acts like your body reacts to it like a toxin, and so it causes it inflammation, like Andy was talking about, and that causes back pressure on the little tiny arterioles, and when it causes that back pressure, the body has kind of a biofeedback system, and it causes the heart to work harder to push the blood through, that partially blocked artery, that arterial. And when it does that, it doesn't just increase the blood pressure at that one little spot, it increases the blood pressure all throughout the body. And so think of like the red blood cells as like little bullets that are being shot through the arteries. And so every place that there's a split, where there's a fork in the road, in your artery, that bullet, that red blood cell, it hits that bifurcation, it hits that split, and when it does that over time, it causes microtrauma. And that microtrauma, after a period of time, there gets to be little tiny tears and weak spots in the arteries and in the pipes. Let's think of them like pipes. And so it starts to wear thin in that particular area. And so then another biofeedback system tells your body, hey, you got to patch up that area where the blood vessel is damaged. You got to patch it up. It's just like, when I drive through town and I see what they're doing to fix the potholes, right? What do? They fill it full of some kind of a mixture of asphalt and tar and different things, and they try and fix the pothole that way. Well, that's what your body's doing, is your body's trying to fix the little tear in the same kind of fashion. And so what we don't use tar, we don't use asphalt, but we use cholesterol, and it patches those little holes. So when you go to your doctor and he says, here, we're going to put you on Lipitor or another statin drug, basically what you're doing is you're blocking your body from doing a normal, natural thing. But the side effect of it when you start taking that drug isn't just that it doesn't fix the problem, but the side effect is that it creates another problem, because the statin drug blocks your body from using or making CoQ10, coenzyme Q10, and there lies another problem. And eventually, if you do that, what you're going to end up having is you're going to have congestive heart failure, and you don't want that.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to go on the internet and look up statin drugs and just do their own little research on that.
Right. And, and so a lot of times people call me up and they're like, hey, doc, you know what you're talking about with this natural stuff. What would you recommend for my friend, or what would you recommend for me? What would you recommend for this person that has, heart disease? And it's really hard to tell. I mean, because I don't have your history. I don't have the lab tests. And so they'll tell me, well, this is what they found. And they'll give me like just the old standard, lab tests, which were, cholesterol's at this level. They might have the HDL and the LDL numbers, but in a lot of cases they don't even have that. They don't have the triglyceride numbers, homocysteine levels, and a lot of different things. I mean, I like to know, what's the glucose and what's the, HB1AC and things like that. But boy, I tell you what, even you take a look at insufficient vitamin D, right? Insufficient vitamin D can cause problems and lead to cardiovascular disease. And so, there's a lot of factors that we got to take into place when we're looking at it. Insufficient vitamin K can cause heart disease. Like I said, too much sugar, all these different things. And, low testosterone levels can cause heart disease, and excess estrogen can cause heart disease, and nitric oxide deficits can cause problems. And nitric oxide is an important messenger molecule that's required for healthy cardiovascular function. It enables the blood vessels to expand and contract with elasticity. And, you know, I was talking, Andrew, was I talking to you about this, about the Full Restore product and the L-Arginine?
Yes, you were, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's share it with everyone.
Yeah, so you know, nitric oxide, of course, like I was just saying, it causes, it enables the blood vessels to expand and contract with that elasticity and keeps the structure of the endothelium, so it protects against cardiovascular disease. And I believe it was, if I remember right, it was 1998. The Nobel Prize was given to a group of scientists because of their work on things like L-Arginine. And L-Arginine is an amino acid. It improves the endothelial function, and it serves as a precursor to your body to make nitric oxide. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
L-Arginine. And so it's an amino acid that your body uses. The University of California looked at it, and they found that people that had peripheral arterial disease, that they could increase the speed and the distance with that. So when Tom formulated For Restore, for those of you who aren't familiar with Sisel, if you're just listening to this recording, you know, for the first time and finding out about our company and our products, Tom is considered by many across the globe to be kind of the top nutritional formulator and top biochemist. He's received a lot of awards, including 2 Genius Awards. But he didn't just, you know, throw L-Arginine in there. He threw in a lot of extra things, because you take a look at it. L-Arginine, you're hearing me talk about it. It shows that, you know, the effects of L-Arginine with people with coronary artery disease, they have improved arterial dilation, right? And this is studies on L-Arginine. This isn't studies on our product, so we can't make the claim about our product. All we can say is that's the study on L-Arginine, and we put L-Arginine into For Restore. We don't just put a little bit of L-Arginine into this product to say, oh, it's in there. No, we put in the right amount. We put in the amount that the researchers showed this is how much you have to have in order to have an effective product. Remember earlier I was saying that we also find that low testosterone levels, imbalanced hormones, can cause heart disease. And testosterone is involved in the process of transporting cholesterol out of the arteries, out of the arterial walls. It helps remove the cholesterol from the arterial walls. It works with keeping the C-reactive protein under control, and it helps prevent abnormal blood clots from forming, and helps prevent sudden heart attacks or strokes. And so especially with men, they found that if they keep this up, keep the testosterone up, it'll help prevent heart disease. So we include ingredients in extracts in the For Restore that helps balance the testosterone levels. So there's 2 good reasons to do that. Number 1, heart disease is still considered to be the number 1, number 2 killer, depending on who you're talking to. Over the course of the last 100 years, you definitely have to say it's the number 1 killer. Up until last year, it was the number 1. So 99 out of the last 100 years. So For Restore, based on the ingredients, it should make a difference. Then you take a look at, we were talking about CoQ10, coenzyme Q10. It's critical for vascular health. It's directly involved with the production of ATP, and we've heard Tom Sr. talking about ATP quite a bit over the course of the last year when we talk about the age pill product, and because it's the energy currency in the body, and it keeps the heart healthy. CoQ10 does. The heart is a muscle that never stops functioning. It's always it's always pumping, and so it needs a substantial amount of CoQ10. And you know, as we age, we need more because we have more problems. So we've included, instead of having to tell people we'll go out and buy some CoQ10, we've actually included it with the omega product that we have, and omega fats, you know, have shown to help reduce that inflammation that Andrew is talking about, and it helps to lower triglycerides. It helps to lower blood pressure, and again, the endothelial function, and it helps to raise the HDL levels. So that's omega-3s. That's why omega-3s are important. And so you can see, you know, if you have heart disease, you know, the 4Restore product is a great product based on the science behind the ingredients. The Super Omega Plus, because of the omega-3s, omega-7, omega-5s, but also because of the CoQ10, and then, you know, the age pill. Why is the age pill important when you're trying to help people with heart disease? Is because it removes that lipofusion and the glycation, which is going to help with healthy support the healthy blood cells and the you know, the stem cells for repair. And then we start looking at, you know, all the other things, vitamin C and vitamin K and vitamin E and resveratrol. I mean, holy cow, resveratrol. A couple of years ago, my mom had a little heart procedure done, a little staple put in the mitral valve, and I had her taking extra doses of the Eternity product with resveratrol, because resveratrol has been shown to really be beneficial and helping protect the small blood vessels and cardiovascular system. It helps prevent clotting, and it decreases your risk of stroke. And so when we take a look at the Eternity product, we've got probably, in my opinion, and I would say in the opinion of a lot of scientists, we've probably got the most bioavailable resveratrol product on the market. We process it correctly. You can go back to some of the previous recordings and listen to us talk about why it's such a great product. But you know, Andrea, we're at the bottom of the hour, and anything that you think that I didn't cover, any questions, anything that I might have stirred up in your brain?
No, I just think, you know, whoever invited people to the call, or if you saw it posted on someone's social media page, get back with that person, and they can give you some more information and connect you with some of these great products.
You bet. Hey, Andrea, next week we're going to go to a Zoom format. We're going to start using the Zoom room that I have put together, just because it's easier for people to connect across the globe. Kind of going to move forward, going to go from old school using a teleconference line like this. We're going to move forward and use a digital format with Zoom. So watch for announcements on that, and if everybody that's on the call could watch for that, I'll start trying to make that announcement maybe you know, this week, so that people have the information, and it'll share that with everybody.
Yeah, Zoom is really easy. You can download a Zoom app on your smartphone and access the meeting that way, or if you have a computer, you would go to zoom.us and have the option to download there. I would suggest they do that before the meeting so that they can join us on time.
You bet. And then it allows me to put some slides up too as we're talking, and so that if you're sharing the information from the recording, there'll actually be some slides that'll go along with it. You know, like I could have had some of the facts and figures and talked about some different things. And you know, a lot of people, they think visually. They think visually, so that right. Visual thing is really good.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Kurt. We appreciate it each and every Tuesday.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.